Everybody for joining on a Monday, whether it is just about noon for you if you're like me on the West Coast, or if it's about 3 on the East Coast, or anywhere in between. Thank you for spending time with me today. So today we are going to be doing what I like to call the ponytail shag. So the reason why I call it a ponytail shag is because I have had so many clients who want to, when they wear their hair up in a ponytail, they want a little bit of something going on around their face, but they don't necessarily want to have a full shag. It's more maintenance than they want, more time spent on styling it. They just want that fun face frame. So I started experimenting with things that worked, and what I found was that flattered the face the most and really gave it that little something extra was taking some of the elements that we apply to a shag cut and really just applying it to just that face frame, and not even the full face frame that goes down, really just kind of stopping, sort of how I have my hair right now with my itty bitty tiny little ponytail. I do have a bob. Having just that little bit of that shag around the face just gives it, it accentuates your cheekbones, your eyes, really kind of contours your face. So it's been very popular with a lot of my clients, so I'm very excited to share it with you. So this is my lovely model, Erica, here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to be cutting her wet today. I can do this cut wet or dry, really whatever is your comfort level. Just easier for me to show today on wet hair. And you can also either use a razor, a straight razor, feather razor, or shears. Again, that is entirely up to you and your artistry. But for today, I'm actually going to be using 2 sets of shears. I'm going to be using my Monarchs just because they are super sharp and I love them. So I'm going to be using these Monarchs as with my super swivel. And then I'm going to be using the erasers, which are texturizing shears. And that I'm going to use on when the hair is dry. So if we have time, I'll show you the dry styling and texturizing. If not, you can head over to my Instagram, or I'm going to post everything in my stories, and you can check it out there. All right. So what we're going to do first is determine where we're going to start. For this, I like to have everything back, unless your client has a preferred way that they like to style their hair, or if you're trying to combat or work with a cowlick in the front. So we're just going to assume that she has none. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn her so you can see. A lot of questions I get, especially with shaggy bangs, is how far back should they go? A good rule of thumb is, and if you remember it from school, it comes all the way back to that. We're going to use our comb. So we're going to place it right at the apex. And what I'm going to do is dip it down a little bit. So right here where, hold our hair down. So right here, you can see kind of when I do this, you can see it makes a little triangle. So that gap, so right here is where we're going to be starting her fringe. Everyone's head is different. So you don't want to go all the way back to the apex because that's just going to be a little bit too much. You can if you want to, if that's for your aesthetic. But for me, I like to just go right where that triangle is because it has just a nice natural fall. So that's where we're going to take it. And then what I'm going to do from that part is I'm going to go down to about the arch of the eyebrow first. So I'm going to turn her around a little bit so you can see as I tighten her up. Okay, so we're going to go about here, and then I'm going to angle to the eyebrow to the eyebrow. Another way you can do this is once you know where you're going to go, you can take a rather big section because you're going to minimize it in a moment. So we can take this big triangle. Since everyone's head is different, I like to do these little things to customize it for your client, because we all have different head shapes and we all have different rounds of our head. Okay, so I'm going to try not to block you. So one way you can do this is you can puff the hair up. So the hair is going to separate on a human. The hair is going to separate where the hair would naturally separate. So for her, it's about here, but we want to take it a little bit more later. So we'll set that aside. We're going to separate it here and separating about here. So this is going to be our more centered section. I'm just going to face her towards me a little bit so I can even her out a bit. So one thing I like about this cut is that you can really sort of play up or play down how much of a shag that you want. Not everyone's going to want bangs, and that's absolutely okay. You can just really customize it for whatever your client's preference is. So we're just going to take this down a little bit. Okay. And if you guys have questions at any point, like Lily said, you can just type them in the chat box, ask them in the Q&A, and I will do my very, very best to answer them. Okay. So we have her section. Let's pop her head off. All right. So we have her section here. So what I'm going to do first with this section is determine where my shortest piece is going to be. And this is where the consultation really comes into play. So I'm going to take a little sliver down the center. So you can just kind of check for balance. It doesn't have to be super thin. I like a little thickness on it. That's totally fine. So for her, we're going to go a little, we're going to add a little bit of a bang. So I'm going to twist it. By twisting it, I'm making sure that it's not going to be blunted because we don't want to have any blunt lines. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where I want to start. So I'm going to be starting right about here. I'm going to open my shears and I'm going to take little tiny cuts downward, opening and closing my shears. Fling that away. And so now we have our first guide. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and I apologize if my arm blocks at any point, you'll see it better on the other side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine where my longest piece is going to be on her face. And we'll add some more down here when we get there, but this is just going to be really getting to about the cheekbone length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little sliver here. So this is going to be at that little corner. And what I'm going to do is determine where that is going to be. I'm going to twist away from her face, hold it where I want it to be. And I'm going to, again, position my shears. We're taking a visual guide. So I'm not going to measure it exactly because I really just want to go with where it looks like it should go. I'm going to, again, open my shears and I'm going to cut downward. The reason why I am twisting away from her face is because it gives just that natural bit of texture and highlights where I need it to be. So now you can see we have our short piece and our long piece right here. What we're going to do is we're going to connect them. So I'm going to bring everything up and I'm going to over direct a little bit past center. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to point cut everything. So now we get this nice shape around the face. So now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Everything we do on one side, we do to the other. So we have our centerpiece already. I'm going to clip this away for now because our hair is starting to dry. So I'm going to take a look. I'm going to measure both sides, see where that piece was. I'm going to twist away from her face. And I'm going to cut down. I'm going to measure my two sides, see how they are. This one's a little longer, so I'm going to go back in and trim again. Okay. Measure for balance, awesome. I'm going to gather everything up. And again, I'm going to over direct slightly past center. And I'm going to connect by point cutting.
Your finger angle there is mimicking your parting angle, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So Willie touched on a really good point. By mimicking where I'm going, I'm setting myself up for success. I'm showing where I want to be cutting and where where my fingers need to be. So now we check for balance and I see if there's anything longer, shorter, anything that I need to do. Never, ever, ever be discouraged if when you do it, one side is longer than the other. We have a natural tendency to favor one side over the other. And that is simply because most people are not ambidextrous. We have a dominant side and we are going to favor that side more. It's just how it is. So we're just going to check for balance. Lovely. Okay. So I'm going to wet her down just a little bit more. She got washed this morning, but her hair is already drying. Okay, so I'm going to start with this side just because I already have her here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that top point where we started her fringe, and I'm going to take a vertical section down, which should get me to right about in front of her ear, which is perfect. I'm just going to section this away. So everything here, I'm going to comb forward. And you want to make sure if you're cutting it dry, it needs to be 100% dry. And if you're cutting wet, you want to make sure it is wet. You want the hair to all be the same. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I am going to bring everything straight forward and I'm going to cut everything towards me. And again, I am point cutting. So when we get to the side here, again, I'm bringing everything towards me and I'm just elevating literally exactly as it's towards me. So I don't want it up here. I don't want it down here. I just want it straight ahead. And again, my fingers are mimicking the section that I'm going in. And you want everything to be little snips. You don't want a perfect line. So again, I'm bringing everything forward and I am connecting. So we're getting this nice face frame through here. So we're going to do a lot of detailing to really just define that, but it's already creating a really nice little shape. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So you can already see it has this nice rounded shape around her face, so that when she pulls her hair up, she's going to get these really nice little fringe pieces. All right, so now we're going to do same thing on the other side. Okay. So again, I'm going to take from the point of my fringe, I'm just going to take that vertical line down, which puts me right in front of her ear. And I'm going to direct everything forward, separate, and just clip this away. So bring her a little bit more towards me. Okay. So again, I'm taking everything straight and point cutting. And also don't be afraid if you are not confident, if you are just trying this for the first time, to take small sections. So how I'm bringing everything forward, you can start by taking just a very small section, very thin section forward and establishing your guide that way and going through. That's totally fine. I just like to work really quickly, especially because sometimes these styles are things that my clients are asking for last minute. So if ever anyone else has been in this situation where a client is going to ask you, say, oh, I really like, I wish that I could have something where when I put my hair up or some highlights or something, and you don't have enough time for like a full service. That's really how I sort of came to this style as like an add-on as well, because I have clients who I didn't necessarily have time for that full cut, but adding this on, it didn't take too much time. And especially when I was doing that full haircut, and what I was doing was adding more money to the ticket. So my ticket price increased. And I was also giving my clients something that they would be coming back for. So you can already see she has this really, really soft and nice shape here that's accentuating where I want it to. So it's really hitting her right, scooping at the eye and scooping at her cheekbones and her jaw. So you can see as I pull her hair back, I'm wearing black, so I'm going to step out of the way. So she has a really pretty style already. And this is her wet without having to do anything. So in fact, I'm going to flip this way right here, so you can really see that effect. So now we're going to do some detailing, because this is the fun part. This is where we get to really, really have fun. So what we want is to create a little bit more movement, and we don't want it to be too heavy. So we're going to go back to our first section here. So we're going to take this up, and then we're going to curve it a little bit. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to scoop my shears as I cut. What that is doing by adding that scooping in that little bit of a concave cut, we're creating shape. So we want that shape to be rounded here in the front. We want the hair, we're directing and cutting where we want the hair to go. So I'm going to take another section and I'm going to use that center section as my guide. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take it up and we're going to angle our shears out almost at like that 45-degree angle a little bit. And we're going to scoop and scoop and scoop and scoop. So already her hair is starting to flow the way that we want it to. And again, we're going to take another section and we're going to bring it back. So this is a stationary guide. We are using our center section as our stationary guide. We do not need a traveling guide for this because what we want is to create length as it moves down. We don't need to. So that's why having that stationary guide is perfect. Okay. So again, we are angling. So for here, again, I'm scooping and I'm just clipping away and snipping away the hair that extends over my guide. So she already is having such lovely movement. Okay, so once we get to this little corner here, right where her head curves, we're gonna follow what her head wants to do. So right in this little pocket, right here so you can see. So right here, if we go over here, there's not going to be much that we're going to do. So here's where our visual guide comes into play. So if we see where it's wanting to go, we can see where it's heavier. And I'm going to get into her center fringe last because that's where we really want to detail around her eyes. So what we want to do here is I'm going to see kind of where it's bopping a little bit. Very technical term, bopping. That's just where I can find little bops of or sections of heaviness that's not really playing well with others and grouping to itself. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my section and I'm going to twirl it a little bit. So by doing this, I can see where there's a heavy point. I can see where the hair is falling nicely. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to point cut a little bit to join my sections. And then I'm going to drop that down and that plays really nicely. And I'm going to do the same thing to this section here. I'm going to add that last little section. I'm going to comb it out and then I'm going to flip it. Notice where I find a pocket. I'm going to turn it so you can see. So you can see where it kind of creates this little V. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to point cut my V. Really soften that up. And already her hair is going in the direction that we want it to. It's creating that shape. It's creating that movement. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing to the other side here. We're going to use our traveling guide that we established in the center. I'm going to take my section here, bring that up, curve my section, and then do our scoop, 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 scoop. Adding another section, comb that all nice and straight. Curve. And then we're going to scoop, 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 scoop. So now we're into that section again down here. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take this little corner. And we're going to, nope, you stay there. So we're going to take this here and we are going to flip it. So what we're going to do is we can go this way or we can go the other way. I flip it this way. So we're going to flip. So we know that this is our shortest piece. This is our longest piece. And we're going to point cut. Into those. If you want a deep, anytime you do a deep point cut, you want to close your shears on the way out, not on the way in. On the way in, you cut yourself. On the way out, you create that nice long shape. So now we're going to take this section here. We're going to take a little bit from the previous, and we're going to comb it forward and twist. And we're just going to point cut. And her hair is already just having so much fun with this. Okay. So now we're going to focus on the center. So this is really where you can play and you can just get into what your client wants. What do they want? How much, do they want to style it? Do they just want that nice little roundness? Do they want to flip their things out? Do they want more of a wing, a curtain? You get to have fun with it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just wetting her down a little bit more so I can have more control. So what I'm going to do here, and I'm bouncing it to kind of just see where it's going to land. I'm going to take this little section here in the front. I'm going to comb it straight at me. Take a visual guide, knowing where I want it to lay. And I'm going to point cut. I'm going to comb that. I'm going to point cut again. I'm going to comb that out and kind of see where it's bouncing. And it's bouncing exactly where I want it to go, which is perfect. So right mid-brow, that little space in between the brows. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out again. And I'm just going to detail that a little bit. So this is just creating a little bit more softness for her. So again, I'm just going to just point cut. We're just softening up those edges around the face. We don't need any harsh lines. We don't want any blunt lines. We just really want that softness. So what I like to do at this point is you can either decide to blow dry, you can use a diffuser, whatever you want. Before I do anything, like to just with my hands and no product, just take the hair and mold it how I would tell my clients to style it. So everything gets smushed towards the face and then away. So you go towards the center and then flip away. Because if you can style it without any product, you know you did a good job. Product is something that helps the hair and works with it. If you can do it without and just get that shape, you know that your clients can be able to recreate it. So I'll take this just kind of squeeze it a little bit, see how it's laying. Perfect. Take this side, twist it, squeeze up, see how it falls, and that is gorgeous. So now what we're going to do before we do anything, we are going to check to make sure that it goes with the rest of her hair, because what we don't want to do is have her walk out being like, oh my God, I got a mullet I didn't ask for. So we're going to let that hair down. And I added some layers earlier to her in the back because that's just what I felt like in the moment. But she doesn't necessarily need them. And anyone who, if this is for your client, you can have, you know, whatever style that they already have. This is, again, something that you're adding on to it. But already having her hair like this, like, so I'm just going to comb her out a bit. So these face framing layers just give her that little something extra with her cut. Because they're around the face, she has these longer pieces here that are giving her that, it makes it look like a shag, like she got a full shag, but she didn't, because she has these shorter pieces and the longer ones, really creating that nice texture. And then when she pulls her hair up, she's going to have that really cute style that she didn't have to do anything. So when she has her hair up, like already, how cute is that? So cute. I'm like wearing black. So she gets to really showcase that.
It looks great, Samantha.
Thank you. It's definitely one of my more fun styles that I like to do. And then if you wanted to, like, I'm just going to just show you what I mean. And I don't use a comb for this. This is just freehand, like we're freehand cutting. Like there's, like people will freehand paint with balayage. You can freehand cut as well. So what I'm going to do with that is if I think like, you know what, I want to add a little bit more texture for her throughout, especially in this area here and here where we're connecting the two, I'm just going to take some pieces and I'm just going to twist just like we did before. And I'm just going to notch a little bit. And that's just going to create some texture for me. Or I can take a piece and determine if it's a little heavy and I want to slide cut, which I will right here. I'm just going to slide cut a little bit there and create points at the ends. This is also a great way, especially if you have a client who wants a shaggy sort of cut, but doesn't want to get rid of that fullness at the bottom. Taking just that shag element around the face allows you to still have more density at the bottom and not create that full shag. So here I'm literally just going to kind of see where we have some heaviness, and I'm just going to slide cut. Just seeing where we have heaviness, and I'm just going to slide cut a little bit just to create a little bit more texture. But that's just my preference. That does not mean that this is part of this specific cut. This is just for me. But it allows you to customize your cuts for your clients and seeing where you need to cut versus, you know, a specific place. So she's already like, she has zero product in her at all. So what I'm going to do just a little bit is I'm going to add a little product, and I'm not going to do a full blow dry, but what I am going to do is just diffuse the front a little bit so we can see some detailing. So I'm just adding a little bit of spray and just a little bit of balm. And I like working product in. You want to make sure either you comb it, you can use your fingers, you can use a brush, but you always want to comb your product in before you blow dry so you don't get like weird pockets of product. Okay, so anytime I'm using a diffuser where for the Shag, I'm not putting it directly on her, but I'm going to use it just to help mold it a little bit. So I may not be able to hear you, but I just want to get a little bit of this done. I love how fast this Dyson is. Okay, so one little trick I do want to show you. So when you have your nozzle on, what we're going to do is I'm going to want to have her hair kind of flip to both sides a little bit. So I'm going to explain what I'm doing without the blow dryer on so you can hear me. So for here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cup my hand here and I'm going to angle it from side to side. And I'm going to blow the hair from beneath, which is going to create just a natural sort of flip. And you can use your fingers to mold it a little bit too. So then I'm going to do the other side. So just something as simple as that, just using your hands. Like if you notice, I didn't even use a brush at all. And you're able to get this really nice, fluffy look. And so now what I'm going to do is anytime I see anywhere that just needs a little bit more softness, now that her hair is dry, I'm going to go in with my eraser. So I'm going to grab my comb. So if I think like, okay, we need a little bit more softness here, I'm not going to go in horizontally with it. Everything I take is going to be vertical. So for example, we'll take this section here. I'm just going to elevate. And that just creates more softness. And again, take another section. And I love, these are literally my go-to texture shears because, and I'll hold them up, they have teeth on both sides. So it's super easy for me to not worry about getting those like weird little chunky parts unless I want them. So I'm just going through softening. If I see anything where I want to go in, again, I can freehand and just, again, everything I'm taking is vertical. I don't want to do anything horizontal on her. So it's already so cute. And the highlights that I did are specifically face framing highlights. So they are meant to go with this type of cut or any face framing cut. So again, I'm just taking my sections and softening them. All right. And then all right. All right, so this is our ponytail shag. I'm just rotating her so you can see. And then I'm going to finish styling her and I'm going to post her on my Insta stories. So if you're not already following me, I'm For Love and Hair. You can find me just all written out one word, For Love and Hair. So you can follow me. I encourage you to follow me on Instagram, and I'm going to post this in my stories. And unless there are any other questions, I just want to thank you guys for joining me today. I always love doing these classes and being able to give back to stylists. So I really, really appreciate you guys joining me here.